Now, it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week. We spoke a bit about that yesterday on the programme. And my next guest wrote her first bestseller, One Moment, One Morning, back in 2010. Sarah Rayner lives in Brighton with her husband Tom and their 15-year-old stepson Sebastian. And we'll see her fifth novel published this week. It's called Another Night, Another Day, and it's being launched in the middle of Mental Health Awareness Week. And it tackles anxiety and depression, with the central characters all having met in a psychiatric clinic. It's a subject Sarah has first-hand experience of herself, so it comes from the heart. Here's Sarah Rayner telling me about the characters she created for this story.
Another Night, Another Day tells the story of three different people. One of them actually appears in One Moment, One Morning, so people that know that book will make a link to it. She's Karen, and she's lost her husband, and at the start of Another Night, Another Day, her father is seriously ill. There's a second character called Abby, who is looking after her son, small son, who has autism, and she's finding that situation very stressful. And a third character called Michael, who is a florist and whose business is in trouble. The three people sort of fold, if you like, at the same time in different ways. One gets miserable, tearful, another gets anxiety, panic attacks, and so on. But they're all brought together by a private mental health clinic in Lewes, and it's here that they meet and become friends and support each other and sort of work through their problems and have a laugh, if you like. And I won't say any more than that because that's taken you to about halfway through the book. But overall, it's an upbeat sort of book overall that starts with a difficult subject.
And an interesting angle on it, in that it's people perhaps without a history of mental illness.
Yes. One of the characters, Abby, has had anxiety when she was a student, but otherwise, for the other characters, it's new, which makes it actually much more scary for them because they don't really understand what's happening. I think if you've experienced some kind of depression or something before, it's always awful if it recurs, but it's not as frightening as the very first time, because the very first time something like that happens, you can feel that it might be permanent, that you might be stuck in that sort of deep hole for a long, long time. And if you've been through it before, you sort of know maybe somewhere, even through the kind of agony, that you will come out the other side because you've done it before.
And so it must be scary for somebody experiencing that for the first time.
Very scary. And I think the problem can be that with fear, it can feed on itself. So, for instance, if you're suffering from anxiety, if you then get frightened, you get frightened by the anxiety, if you like, and think that you're going to be like this and be mad forever or whatever. It kind of escalates. It creates a vicious circle of adrenaline running through your body and so forth. So actually taking some of the fear away is one of the main ways that it's good to treat anxiety.
So you must have drawn on your own experience of having times of anxiety and depression, Sarah. Can you talk me through that and tell me how that might feel, how you reacted to it, if you don't mind?
No, I don't mind. I did draw on my own experiences, but I do want to make it clear that it is a work of fiction so that people that I know don't think they're suddenly going to appear in it. Yeah. And also what I would say is that I sort of turned up the volume, if you like, in my book on my own experiences. You know, I haven't got a child at home with autism and my husband hasn't died and so on and so forth. But yes, in my own experiences, I actually found that my anxiety, I would go through cycles of having sort of periods of maybe days or weeks where my anxiety was really quite bad and stopped me from living my sort of normal life, if you like. And what I came to learn is that actually by stopping doing everything and just sort of burying myself, you know, in my duvet and so on, I was actually making the situation worse. Because if you suffer from anxiety and then you're lying in bed with adrenaline running around your body...
What else have you got to think about?
Yeah.
Your anxiety?
Yeah.
Was there one trigger for you? Was there one thing that started this off, do you know?
I think I've got that disposition anyway. I come from, I suppose, quite a high-achieving family, and I went to that kind of school where they push you to perfectionism, if you like. So I'm like that. A lot of creative people, I think, are perhaps a little bit mad. And then I think, for me, there were two things that coincided, actually. I felt after the success of One Moment, One Morning, which was obviously a lovely thing, and I don't want to
it's what you wanted.
It is what I wanted.
Once you got what you wanted, it has a negative effect on you.
It didn't have a negative effect sort of in every way, but what I felt was under quite a lot of pressure to write something that people also liked and that was also a success. It's what my husband calls the difficult second album syndrome. So I think there was that. And then being, how shall we say, a certain age of being menopausal, actually, where your hormones are kind of changing. Those two coincided, I think, and I ended up with quite bad anxiety about 2 years ago.
So what do? Do you seek help for that, or do you try and battle it through and talk to your husband and draw on your family?
Battling it through is not a great idea, because again, that's a bit like kind of escalating the fear. It's much rather than battle, it's more like accepting it. You're not going to ever get rid of anxiety. It's a part of actually the human condition. It's related to our fight or flight mechanisms, and so to kind of think that you're going to battle through it and get over it forever and you'll never be anxious again is actually misleading.
So is it good to seek help to help you cope with it?
Yes. I think it's very good to seek help to cope with it, and a good place to start can be your GP, although services are pretty pressurised. I still think it's worth giving that a go.
Is there still a stigma attached to it?
I think there is, yes. I mean, hopefully it's not as bad as it was, but I know that I feel I'm in a position now where I can speak out a bit more openly about it, because I've not got a job that's dependent on it.
Wait, so if you worked for a firm, they might look badly at
I think so.
Your differing mental health?
I don't think, obviously they can't be seen to do that, but I really think they would.
Yeah, no, in the background they might do. They're not going to say it to your face.
No.
And they might not, but it might mean you miss out on a promotion.
For me, I was freelance, actually, as an advertising copywriter before working as a novelist, or becoming a full-time novelist, rather. And I think how it might have affected people if I'd been really open about it was they would have thought, well, if she suffers from anxiety, she's not going to be able to cope with the pressures and things of this job,
and deliver this copy on the time and the date when specified.
Whereas actually I'm the kind of person that would do that no matter how rubbish I was feeling.
Okay, so right, but there's what you might do and what they might think.
Yes, absolutely. I also think some people don't want to speak openly about it because they might be worried about how their friends or family might perceive them. I know a couple of women who certainly don't want it made public because they're dating on the internet and they think it might put prospective suitors off. All sorts of reasons that people have for not actually speaking about it openly.
Sarah Rayner, her book is Another Night, Another Day. It's out this week. More with Sarah in just a moment. Back to my conversation with Brighton-based author Sarah Rayner about her book Another Night, Another Day. 2 book launches coming up. One is this Thursday evening in Brighton, and then the following Thursday in Richmond. 2
events. Both of them start about 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'll be talking to my editor, Francesca Main from Picador, who was very much part of my writing the book, and we worked closely together in developing it. And tickets are on sale from both of the branches, priced £3, and it's to help raise money for Mind and the Mental Health Foundation.
So that's May the 15th at Waterstones in Brighton and May the 22nd at Richmond Waterstones, 7 o'clock in the evening, £3 for your tickets. Tell us a little bit more about the book and the characters. I mean, you've given us 3 very interesting characters you told us about at the beginning, Karen, Abby and Michael. And so they come together in this psychiatric unit, and what happens when they get there?
When they get there, they are in different states of mental togetherness and falling apartness, if you like. So they react to the place quite differently. Karen is the least wobbly, if you like, of the 3 of them. So she actually sort of immediately sees it as somewhere safe and is kind of pleased that it's not as grim as she thought it was going to be. Whereas Abby is right in the throes of deep anxiety and can't kind of see straight for panicking. So she can not speak to anybody other than to kind of shout, "Leave me alone," more or less. And Michael kind of sits there cross with people, is what I would say. His sort of default position at that point in the novel is to be angry with the world. He's been a bit shafted by work and so on and so forth. So there are reasons for that. And then they all work in groups and things like that together. They have a psychiatrist and a therapist, and we see their sessions with those people. We see them in groups together, but we also see them sort of eating lunch. And so it's a bit of a kind of behind the closed doors of these places, which I always think, I'm a bit prurient about these things. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, sure. Especially if it's something that you haven't had experience of.
Yeah.
If you have, perhaps there's a chance to compare experiences.
Yeah. My intention is not to kind of go out there and make people feel worse. What I try and show is that these experiences can actually be where we really see one another's humanity, and we bond and make kind of deep friendships. And actually there are moments in Another Night, Another Day, for instance, which I think are quite funny. My own experience of being doing my groups and so on is that a lot of people who are, if you like, a tiny bit mad, or some of them maybe quite a lot mad, are very funny. The sort of thing that you see in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm not pretending I write like that, but
that we shouldn't really laugh at, but sometimes you can't help it because it's genuinely funny.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and is there no shame in that? That's okay to do, is it?
I think so.
Okay.
If you're in it together, you're not laughing at somebody, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about laughing with.
Yes.
And actually, what I found is that there's a real kind of camaraderie between a lot of the patients because they identify with one another. So I've shown how that can help and actually be very healing. Laughter is very good for us, I think.
That's Sarah Rayner. Her book is called Another Night, Another Day. 2 launches.